Before the High Republic was officially revealed, many reported that the next series of Star Wars movies would take place in conjunction with the High Republic. However, Lucasfilm has denied this in a variety of different ways. I want to talk about everything we know about the High Republic, the future Star Wars movies, and what the heck is going on over at Lucasfilm. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel, and a happy Star Wars Sunday to you if you're watching this on Sunday. So I don't know about you guys, but this has been something that has very much confused me as I've been looking at all of the announcements and the things coming out about the High Republic. You'll remember that many of the scoopers out there that we follow, including Jason Ward over at MakingStarWars.net and a Zero.hu article which first broke this story, all referred to the future Star Wars movies as happening during the High Republic era. And I've actually talked to people behind the scenes that confirmed this, that yes, indeed, the High Republic era was going to be a place in which the future Star Wars movies, the series of films that is slated for 2022, 2024, and 2026, will take place. The way this was explained to me was that the future of Star Wars was going to be massively connected, and this was something that Lucasfilm had been developing for some time now, and that the Dan and Dave's series of films was spinning out of this same idea. Now, this is not to say that the High Republic was started by Dan and Dave, but rather that the macro idea of doing a series of movies in a singular time period that all connected to tell a singular story was something that Lucasfilm was very much interested in doing. However, the official press release for the High Republic actually denies this pretty strongly. Here's what it actually says in the press release. It says this period on the Star Wars timeline will not overlap with any filmed features or series currently planned for production, giving creators and partners a vast amount of room to tell Star Wars stories with new adventure and original characters. Interestingly, Matt Martin of the Story Group recently shed some more light on this with this Twitter exchange. You can see here that he is asked about the idea for the High Republic and if that project was conceived and developed separate from whatever future films were being developed. And Matt says, yes, it was developed independently, but that's not to say the era wouldn't be available to storytellers in other mediums, but it was developed for publishing. So frankly, I'm a little bit confused. I've literally been told that these are working in conjunction, that the Dan and Dave stuff and whatever that project ends up being will take place in the High Republic era, but it's pretty clear that Lucasfilm and Disney is wanting to distance themselves from that conclusion. I mean, it's in the press release. Matt Martin is answering questions like this, so I'm confused. What is actually going on? Well, now I want to speculate based on some of the things that I have heard and just some of the things I'm thinking about on why this could be. There's a couple of different scenarios that could be taking place here, and so I want to go through them, but I should mention a lot of this is speculation. And even though some of it's based on things that I've heard from different people, we have to treat it all as just speculation for now. I have not been told clearly that this is what is happening. Here's why this is happening. I have reached out to some people about this, and I have to just kind of take from what I have been told and speculate about what I think is going on. So option number one is that Lucasfilm is lying to us or telling us the truth from a certain point of view.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
The series of films is still on the table. This is the stuff that was being developed by Dan and Dave, and I believe it is that same series of features that is referenced in the High Republic press release. So perhaps Lucasfilm just wants to keep this a secret. They don't want to let out this big reveal that, yes, this is going to lead in and tie in to future film projects. Maybe it's not overlapping, and this is because whatever story the High Republic group is telling, you know, the one with the actual ending that they wrote on the whiteboard, yeah, that story will probably not overlap with anything. It will have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and is developed specifically for publishing. Maybe whatever the story is in the publishing effort of the High Republic will lead into whatever films come next, or vice versa. Perhaps the films being developed will lead into the High Republic era. That could explain what is being said in the press release, and I think the idea in the press release is really just to convey that this is totally new stuff, and we're going to get unrestrained trained creators telling the stories they want to tell and really just using their full imaginations and abilities as storytellers to give us a new, very cool piece of canon. And perhaps when Matt Martin says that the projects were developed independently, he is referring to that actual story that is being told in the High Republic publishing effort. I mean, frankly, it's not completely independent of anything else in Star Wars. I mean, there is a canon for Star Wars, and this time period does lead into the prequels, and there might be a young Yoda fooling around during this time period as well. So it's not as though it's a completely clean slate. Maybe what Matt is saying is that it was developed, meaning the story was developed independently. It wasn't chained or constricted by what other stories are being told in other mediums. So to me, this would actually be the best case scenario, and I hope that that's what's actually going on. And I would be a little bit salty that Lucasfilm is doing all this misdirection and making us second guess other reports and wondering if maybe big things are changing behind the scenes, but ultimately, I'd forgive them if this plan came to fruition and was actually well executed. Now, the other couple of options are not so good, and again, I want to explain, this is speculation. We're clearly in speculation town now, guys, so don't take anything I'm saying as though it is coming from a source or I'm reporting it as a rumor. Well, I guess I would be reporting it as a rumor, but it's not a rumor at all. It's just my speculation. You know what I mean. Now, I do know that we were supposed to be getting a big announcement in January. This was going to be an announcement about the next creative person that was coming in to replace Dan and Dave. I know for a fact that Lucasfilm has been approaching some of the biggest names in the film industry, and I know for a fact that they have yet been unable to sign one of these big creators to come on board for the next series of Star Wars movies. Now, a possible explanation for this is the fact that none of these big creators want to come in and play in this sandbox that Lucasfilm is establishing. They might not want to take the reins from the Dan and Dave development, or they might just not want to tell a story in the High Republic era. Perhaps they want to go forward in the timeline past Episode 9 and tell completely new stories in a whole new age of Star Wars. I mean, consider the fact that we know the Project Luminous announcement itself was delayed. That was supposed to happen in early February, and it was pushed back. So could the announcement have been pushed back and that line put into the press release about overlap just to sort of give some cushion? Maybe one of the big creative names that they are courting wants to do their own thing, and Lucasfilm is rethinking whether or not they want the next series of movies to tie into the High Republic. And I suppose that's completely possible, but if it is indeed what is happening, I would have some concerns about that. Number one, we don't have much time. I mean, I know 2022 feels like it's a far ways away, but you have to develop the entire process of what the next series of movies is going to be and do pre-production and make a freaking movie before 2022 comes out. And so it would be really concerning to me if Lucasfilm had this plan, they were developing these series of movies, they couldn't get a creative to sign on, and then decided, okay, we'll give this big creative name carte blanche and do this whole new thing, and we'll have to rush that out before 2022. That would be horrible, as I think a lot of Star Wars fans can point back to the beginning of the sequel trilogy and the fact that they wanted to push out Force Awakens very quickly as one of the reasons the sequel trilogy had so many problems. Had they taken a lot more time to develop the stories, characters, and motivations of all the different things going on in the sequel trilogy, it probably would have been a much tighter product. And so I would absolutely hate it if just to get a big name on board, they changed their plans completely and then rushed out production and put out that film in 2022. Now, there is something that could help alleviate this concern for me, and this would all be if they took the Kenobi series and made it into a movie. This is a big bit of news that is out there that not a lot of people are talking about. This was something that Jason Ward dropped in our lap about a month ago, maybe more at this point, and this was a possible reason that the Kenobi series was being delayed, because it might be a movie. And if they do develop Kenobi before a film in 2022, then perhaps that will give more time to whatever they are doing next with the next series of movies. And so if it goes all the way to 2024, then we would have more time to develop whatever this new creative wanted to do that would not be connected to the High Republic. However, another concern I would have if this is the scenario that is taking place is the fact that this would hurt the High Republic publishing line. Even though Lucasfilm at this point is trying to convince everybody it's not connected to anything, it's just just books and comics, if there's video games that tie into the High Republic, and if there were movies that the High Republic publishing story leads into, that will definitely spark more interest for those books and novels. And that would suck because that was likely the way it was going to be designed, and I would absolutely hate it if that was taken away from us just because Lucasfilm wanted to attach a big new name to some new crazy project. Now, it's also possible that Lucasfilm is thinking about doing both. Maybe they're just playing their cards close to the chest because they have had production problems in the past, pretty notoriously at this point. And maybe they're both looking for a big creative that could possibly do something completely new and a big creative that they could plug into these series of movies that they've already been developing. I mean, this could all be being done because things are in motion and they don't want to get caught announcing something that then changes. As I just said, that is a big problem with Kathy Kennedy's Star Wars movies. They have had a lot of production problems. So that's basically the second option that is happening, and that would be basically a change in their plans because no big name creator wants to come in and do the thing that they want to do. Now, the last option as to why all of this stuff might be changing is a bad option. And I don't even really like speculating about this kind of stuff, but I can't really deny it as a possibility. It is possible that there are major changes coming to Lucasfilm, and that indeed would mean Kathy Kennedy either stepping down or taking a different position in which she did not have the same control and power that she had over the past couple of years. It's no secret at this point that the Star Wars brand is on a decline, and it's really up to you to decide how bad you think that decline is. Is it normal? Will it readjust? Or is it the worst thing in the world? But either way, it's totally fair to say there are many Star Wars fans that were disappointed by the end of the sequel trilogy, and perhaps by the sequel trilogy in its totality. And it's not just a vocal minority of fans that have been upset with Lucasfilm for a long time. It's a whole new slew of fans that looked at the end of the sequel trilogy and were just not that happy with it. Now, I want to stop for a second and be really clear here. I have not heard anything from behind the scenes to indicate that Kathy is stepping down or going away. I want to make that clear because sometimes when I speculate, people are like, oh, he must know something. He's hinting at something. He's not telling us something. There's definitely stuff I know that I'm not telling you, and God, it sucks because some of it's really cool, but none of it has to do with Kathy Kennedy. If Kathy Kennedy is being moved out and someone else is being moved in, that is real hush-hush, and it must be happening very recently. We do know that Bob Iger has stepped down as CEO and Bob Chapek has replaced him. As many people have pointed out online, this kind of a scenario and a big change in leadership usually does foreshadow other big changes happening at a company. And it's been reported out there and said to me in private by people that I trust that despite what some people would have you believe, Bob Iger has actually protected Kathy Kennedy in a lot of different ways. And so whether or not this would be Kathy being completely fired or just moved into a different role and someone else given the creative reins of Lucasfilm, either way, a big change like that could likely change what the future Star Wars movies would be like. Perhaps whoever comes in next as development of live action or as the president of Lucasfilm actually wants to tell stories in the future, past Episode 9, and isn't interested in going back and telling movies that take place before the prequels. Now, clearly this would not explain some of the things that happened earlier in the year, like announcements being delayed and that press release saying that there's no overlap, but it could be a scenario in which the High Republic movies would not actually happen. Now, either way, the High Republic is coming. Like, it's coming, and it's going to be in books and novels, and there looks to be different phases of it. It looks to be a complete story told over years. The only question is whether or not we will actually get the next series of Star Wars movies also taking place in the High Republic era. Now, as far as what I personally would like, I would love for there to be High Republic movies. I actually think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I'm super excited to see what these different writers do within the High Republic stories. And ultimately, I would love for the films to take place after whatever this big story is in the High Republic era. And perhaps there are some new things that are developed that are either kept hidden from the Jedi in the prequel era or just lost to the histories because everybody dies. And whatever is going on in those type of stories, I'd be really interested in. I want the High Republic to be amazing and to blow everyone away. I want all Star Wars fans to love Star Wars again and to love each other and to start treating each other better. I wish everybody would be excited about Star Wars again. Crazy, I know. A pipe dream, probably, but that is honestly what I would want. Please share your thoughts on any of this and whether or not you want the next series of Star Wars movies to be the High Republic movies in the comment section below. Now let's shout out Zach Goobler. Yes, indeed, Rey uses force healing on the Kyber crystal to repair it after The Last Jedi. So shout out to you, Zach. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, in Legends, what was Darth Malik's actual name, or his born given name before he turned into a Sith? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this video. The Den of Nerds is independent media. If you want to support us, you can do something as simple as liking or sharing this video. If you want to financially support us, you can join the list of names you see below and become a supporter of us on Patreon. We also do live streams all week, Monday through Friday, over on our live streaming channel. Support independent media. Support the Den of Nerds.